In section 3.3, we're going to look at solving some word problems by setting up a system of linear equations with two variables. Similar to what we did in section 3.1, but now we're doing the same type of problems with word problems, meaning we have to set up the equations first. So let's take a look. In this first example, we have a rectangular soccer field. So I'm going to start off by drawing myself a picture of a rectangle. And the first thing that they mention is the rectangle's perimeter. The perimeter, they're telling me, is 360 yards. Well, what is the perimeter of any object? Well, perimeter is just a loose term for saying the distance around an object, meaning if we were to walk around the rectangular soccer field and add up all those lengths. Well, then I need to know what the names of the lengths are on a rectangle of all the sides. Well, we have that opposite sides are the same, and usually we call two of the sides the length and two of the sides the width. So what this means when we go to add up this and talk about the perimeter, you add up, let's see, when we have the perimeter, we add up all the sides, we're going to add up the two L's, and you're going to add up the two W's. So we'll add up the two L's and we'll add up the two W's, and that should be all of our perimeter, which is 360 yards. So that's one of our two equations for our system of equations. Now I need a second equation. Remember, if I've got two variables, I should have two equations. So the next one's going to come from the second sentence they have. Its length is 20 yards more than its width. And this should be a word for word translation. So the first word we see is the length, so we'll use L. Is means equals 20 yards more than, means that we're going to add 20 yards to what? Its width, which we're using the letter W for its width. Now notice, we did types of problems like this in the last section, and this one is actually already set up for substitution. Why? Because one of the equations already has L by itself. So what we can do is take that equation and replace it in wherever there's an L into the first equation. So let's go ahead and do that. Our first equation was 2L, and like we said, we're going to replace that L with W plus 20. Just like in the last section, though, we need to make sure when we plug anything in or substitute anything in, we need to put parentheses around it. Plus another 2W equals 360. So now what we'll do is we can go ahead and work this out like we would a normal math problem by the first thing that we would do is distribute the 2 to everything in the inside of the parentheses, multiply out that 2. Which would get us a 2W plus 40. Anything else right now would just be staying the same, so we've got a plus 2W equals 360. Now I can combine any terms that are like terms that are on the same side of the equation. So I have a 2W and another 2W, which because they're on the same side, I can go ahead and add normally, will become a 4W. Don't forget, I also have a plus 40 on that side of the equation, equals 360. Next step, we'll go ahead and subtract the 40 from both sides. So what does that get me? Right now, that gets me that 4W equals 320. So your last step would be to divide both sides by 4. And that would get you that W, the width of your rectangular soccer field. Well, 4 goes into 320 80 times. Now, because the perimeter was in yards, our length and width will also be in yards. So we'll say that the width is 80 yards. Now, that's only half of the answer. Just like when we were doing these as regular problems, we had to find an X and a Y. We don't have X's and Y's, though. We've got L's and W's. So we've got the W. We need to find the L. So we're going to take this and plug it in. It doesn't technically matter which one you plug it into, but I'm going to plug it into my first one that I actually used as a plug-in. So I'm going to plug it in and plug in my 80 for W. And notice what that gets me is that gets me 80 plus 20, which equals 100. So what that means is that my lengths are both going to be 100 yards. Okay, so that means both of my lengths are 100 yards and both of my widths are 80. So if I were going to fill in my picture, it would look something like this. And you can take a quick second to make sure that all of these sides, add them all up, should add up to 360. It's a quick way of just double checking yourself. Continuing along, this next one we can't really draw a picture, but let's go piece by piece and see what we can translate. In 2009, the FCI prices for Major League Baseball and the National Football League totaled $609.53. So I don't quite understand this problem, but that's okay. We can still figure it out. We've got something for baseball and something for football that together are totaling $609.53. So the question is, what does the word total mean? Well, when we're talking about something totaling something, it means they should add up to be something. So we'll take the baseball amount and football amount. Because we're talking about baseball and football, I'm going to use B and F. And again, we said that they should total or add up to $609.53. So there's our first equation from our first sentence. The second equation is most likely going to come from our second sentence, so let's try that. The football prices were $251.75 more than that of baseball. So the next thing we see is football, so that's our F. Was, is, were, they all mean equals. $251.75 more than. It means we're going to be adding the $251.75 onto our baseball. So added to B. Just like the last one, what we should be noticing is that it is set up for substitution again. Why? Because F is already by itself in one of the two equations. So that means I can replace the F in the previous equation with this B plus 251.75. So let's go ahead and make that switch. So we've got our B plus, and we'll replace that F with that B plus 251.75. And again, whenever we substitute anything, we're going to put parentheses around it. And we said that this equaled 609.53. Now, normally we'd be worried about the parentheses, but notice that there's actually nothing out in front of the parentheses to multiply out. There's no number there, it's just a plus sign. So you don't actually need to do anything. All we actually are worried about is just combining like terms. That we've got a B plus A, another B. Well, B plus B should give us a 2B. We still have our 251.75 equals our 609.53. Now keep on going. We'll subtract the 251.75 from both sides and see what we end up with. But we'll end up with 2B equals, let's see, 357.78. Then our last step would be to divide both sides by 2 to get B by itself. And let's see, when you divide both sides by 2, we get $178.89, and that's for our B. And remember, this was money, so it's $178.89. And remember, the B stands for baseball. I still have to find out the same amount, but for football. So I'm going to take this value I just found, my baseball amount, and let's plug it in to our substitution formula, wherever there's a B. So we'll be plugging in 178.89. So that'll be 178.89 plus our 251.75. And that, whatever this ends up being, will end up being our amount for football. So it's the 178.89 plus the 251.75, which gets us a total of $430.64. And this is your amount for football. And we're done.